أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا أبي القاسم محمد وعلى عترته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا. أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. Whenever we sit down sometimes and remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's blessings on us, and we begin to write them down, we will find that we get tired, but we cannot count how many ni'mat Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to each and every one of us. Yet we are told that when you count your ni'mat, the greatest ni'mah that you and I have is the wilayat of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. And that is why our Imams have said that when your eyes wake up in the morning for the first time and you want to thank Allah, this phrase should not be far from your lips, that Alhamdulillahi alladhi ja'alana min al-mutamassikina bi wilayati Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. That is the greatest gift Allah you gave me, is that you gave me into a household that already had wilayat of Ahlul Bayt. That from when I was young, these were the lessons I grew up with. These were the characters who my father and mother taught me about. And these are the people who are my leaders. Many people talk about their leaders. Just 4 or 5 qasida and poetry you heard is a sample of the fact when Shias talk about their leaders, they talk with so much pride. There is so much to talk about that it never ends, because the fada'il that these characters have brought in front of the world is something that truly makes you proud. That yes, I am attached to this person, and I have no difficulty in introducing my leader to anybody else, Muslim or otherwise. He will also bow in admiration to him. This is the greatest fadila. So, on this day, one of the great Eids for us, 13th of Rajab, I wish you all Khushali Mubarak. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make this year a year of Mubarak for us especially, and the prayers that we have come with on this great night, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept them from us. I've just divided my talk into 2. It is not usually my habit to speak about a lot of fadail of Ahlul Bayt alayhimus salam, only a little bit. But if there is a night to speak about fadila of Ali bin Abi Talib alayhi salam, it is this night. And so I will devote the first section, because it is important that our children constantly learn. Even though we have heard these things many times, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam would say that Allahumma salli ala, that beautify your majlises with the zikr of Ali bin Abi Talib alayhi salam. That, so I will spend a little bit of time on that. And then inshallah in the second section, what I want to talk about also, in light of some of the examples of Mawla, to see how we can base our attitude and our decisions in life on some of the examples he has left, inshallah wa ta'ala, for us. Please recite a salawat ala Muhammad wa alihi. There is no doubt that when you study the life of this particular person, Ali bin Abi Talib, whether you study it as a believer, as an admirer, or just as an objective historian, that there are certain merits and fadila that this man has which nobody has before. And especially if you study as the Muslims do, not even as Shia. There are things that Amirul Mu'mineen has that no one was given this fadail by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the first was what we heard, that this is the one unique shakhs, one person who is born within the Kaaba itself. There is no doubt about that. You can look into the history of the Muslimin, the Shia, the Sunnah, and you will see that place where people go. You know, when I went to the Kaaba for the first time, they said, now that you have come to the Kaaba, you will leave here pure as the day you were born. And this is the house in which Ali alayhi salam is born pure in that house, which people then go to purify themselves. This is a great fadilah. That, those who are munkir or amirul mu'minin, what is going on in their heart when 5 times a day they have to turn to Kaaba? And they are reminded that this is the house in which Ali alayhi salam was born. Right? Nobody else Allah gave that honor. It was an honor. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't something that could be easily done. It's not something you and I can book as a maternity ward for anybody. Nobody could ever do that. Nobody could expect that. And yet this was there. Why? A lesson. A lesson for us. Amongst the other things is that for the Muslimin, if you look what the attributes Ali alayhi salam has that have not been extended to anybody else, he is called the wali. When we say in our adhan, we add it as a mustahab part. Yes. Ashhadu anna aliyan waliyullah. It is not something from hadith. It is from the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the Quran, in Surah Ma'idah says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is your wali. Innama waliyukumullah wa rasuluhu walladhina amanu. This alladhina amanu is Amirul Mu'minin alayhi salam. And unique to him is his history in different facets of his life. I just brought 3 or 4 for you. Nobody could match Ali alayhi salam, for example, in defense of Islam. Even before in the battles, Ali alayhi salam was never far from Rasulullah, protecting him, guarding him. And when it came to battle, though it was a totally different thing. If you look at the history of each of the warriors of Islam, they are there for us to read. And there are some, mashallah, very great warriors. But they're all dwarfed by the career of Amirul Mu'minin. If you look at history, I was just looking recently, about 3-4 months back, I was looking for something else, but I started to look at the history of Amirul Mu'minin in battle from the earliest times. And we find that, for example, in the very first battle, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam came to examine the troops. This is in a very interesting chapter in fiqh, actually, in the chapter of the Amama. He came and he saw, and it was the habit of the battle, the champions, to wear Amama in battle, so that they could identify themselves and they could say to the opponents, come fight me, I am the champion. Because this was the way of the Arabs, that there wasn't much loss. They fought a lot. They didn't kill too many people each time, but the champions fought. And when Ali alayhi salam was standing there, Rasulullah with his own hands placed the Imam on his head and said, Ya Ali antal batal. You are a champion and you should be identified as such. And that was like a green light, because after that, nobody could stand in front of Amirul Mu'minin. It's the truth. Badr was in his hand. In Uhud, when the Muslims were so confident, and then things turned round, and there was a very difficult time on them, again, Ali alayhi salam fights till his sword breaks. He is given a sword by Rasulullah. And Jibreel is heard saying what? That La Fatah illa Ali, La Saif illa Dhulfikar. There is no youth who fights like Ali. There is no sword that moves like Dhulfikar in the hands of Ali alayhi salam. In Khandak, Tabari again writes that when Umar ibn Abdawud came and started boasting, and he placed a really good question in front of the Muslims actually. He said, what have you got to worry about? If I kill you, you go to Jannah. If you kill me, you have killed a warrior of the stature of Amr bin Abdawud. You will be famous for life. You have a win-win situation. Come. Tabari writes that the Rasulullah turned to the Muslims and said, Man lahu, who will go to him? And he says the Muslims sat so still that birds could have rested on their heads peacefully. Thinking that if I move, Rasulullah will say, I have a volunteer here, let's go. So everybody is standing really still, except for one man who keeps rising. Ana lahu ya Rasul. I am ready for him. I will go to him. Right? When he stood up, and Rasulullah many times used to give people the chance. Tomorrow don't say, I wanted to go, but Prophet just sent his cousin. No, you have a chance. Say, when nobody stood, when he went, and when he fought, Rasulullah said something about him. He said, Darbatu aliyin, yawm al-khandaq, afdalu min ibadati thaqalain. On that day, the sword strike of Ali was heavier than the ibadah of the men and the jinn. Why? Islam was at that crossroad. Everything, every hard work in Medina could have been overturned. Because Ahzab was this Khandaq battle was a difficult battle. Ahzab was a battle in which it was all out. Muslims against everybody else. Abu Sufyan had brought Quraysh. He had brought Jews. He had paid for mercenaries. Everybody who could bring a sword on the ground had come to fight the Muslims. And on that day, Ali bin Abi Talib, his work was pivotal in the success of Islam. This is Ali. In Khaybar, we heard also, when Khaybar was proving difficult for the Muslims to overcome, a whole series of forts, cleverly connected underground, linked in such a way that if you attacked one, they would go into the other one by deserting one, and Muslims were there for a whole month. They could not prevail, and food was running low, and they were stretched far out of Medina. Their supply lines were low, were thin, and Muslims' morale was low. At that time, the commander, normal commander, Ali bin Abi Talib alayhi salam, is absent because of some difficulty with the eyes, we are told. In the end, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave this prophetic, this is from Sahih Muslim. He gave this, Sa'd ibn Abi Waqas is giving this riwayah, that there are three things for which I envy Ali ibn Abi Talib. Amongst them was this, that he said, tomorrow I will give this raya, this flag, to a man who I love and Allah loves him, and who loves me and who loves Allah. Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas said, we waited all night, we were anticipating in the morning, we stood on tiptoe so he would not miss us. At that time he called for Ali bin Abi Talib. And when he called for Ali, we said, he is not well. They said, call him. And he rubbed his saliva on Ali's eyes. Ali alayhi salam comes into the battle. And it's beautiful how Marhab, this Marhab by the way, his history is very interesting. He is another master warrior of his own class. In the same class as Amr bin Abdawud, known to him as well. But he had never known defeat, nor did he often come out to the battlefield. His reputation was enough. He used to fight with two swords. When he came out, it is said that Marhab was having nightmares, was having dreams, bad dreams, about a lion attacking him, about being torn apart by a lion. And when he comes out, and Ali alayhi salam looks at him, and he says to him, you know, when they start reciting the rajas, the poetry, war poetry, he says to him, Marhab, Ana alladhi sammatni ummi Haydar. My mother, I am the one whose mother called him Haydar. Haydar means a lion who cuts. And immediately after that, it was only a procedural matter. And Marhab was defeated, and defeated very badly by Amir al-Mu'minin. How is this happening? All of Arabia is awash with the news that there is a 28-year-old man who fights with a sword which has two tongues. To stand against him is to die. And his name is Ali. He's not even 30 yet. And this is Ali bin Abi Talib in the battlefield. Now I ask you this, and this is what sometimes really amazes me. A man can be good in one thing, and maybe he can be mediocre in another thing, and not so good in another thing. But when you look at Ali bin Abi Talib alayhi salam, this is what is amazing. That, Ya Allah, what kind of figure have you placed between us that whichever field he enters in, there is no one to match him. There is no one. I tell you, if he is a warrior, he's a warrior. Oh. But when Ali alayhi salam, that same man who wields the sword, who is injured, Ali alayhi salam did not just come without wounds. He had wounds all over him. Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam says, when we washed our father in Kufa, he had wounds crisscrossing him, and these were wounds my mother used to stitch clothes when he used to come back from battle. Right? And he says, but my father did not have any wounds on his back, because Ali alayhi salam was karrar. He was never farrar. So he is a warrior hope. But when he comes to ibadah, that same hard man is now praying in such a way that Bilal once came and he said to Janab Sayyida, I fear for Ali. I saw him in a state, I think he is dying. She said, no, this is Ali in salat. This is how he is. This is how he is. When this same man with that all that jalal, all that honor, because when Ali alayhi salam walked into battle, everybody was looking at him. Everybody was praising him. This was a time to have that kind of arrogance. But when he would sit with a poor person, he would say to him, Miskinun jalisu miskin. You are miskin, I am also miskin. I am sitting with you. Let us eat together. Right? This was him. When he entered into Kufa, and Kufa is a beautiful place to go, spend time in Kufa. Najaf is where he is buried, but Kufa is his office. It's where his career happened. It's where Nahj Balagha was rolled out. Walk in Masjid Kufa and try to get a sense of that. When he is in Kufa, and the speeches he gives, the eloquence he uses, just an example. Once Amir al-Mu'minin entered Kufa mosque, and the Muslimin were talking, and they were talking something about language. And they were saying how certain words and certain letters are indispensable and so important in the Arabic language. They were saying, masalan, that you cannot say in, like I would say to you in English, you cannot say a sensible sentence or a paragraph without using the letter A in it somewhere. So somebody said, nothing can be said without alif. And Ali ibn Abi Talib stood up, and that famous khutbah that is there, it is called Al-Khutbatu Dun Al-Alif. He gave extempore, without preparation, a khutbah on Tawheed of Allah. It was for 5 minutes. It is there in English, and there's not one alif in it. Not one. How does this happen? This is from the fadl of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to him. And we are honored, privileged to be the Shia of Ali, or to call ourselves the Shia of Ali. Now, amongst the Ma'sumin as well, the fadil of Ali ibn Talib are different, you know. A man came to Imam as-Sadiq salawatullah wassalamu alayhi and says to him, that Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen. And Imam said to him, no, do not use this title with us. There is only one Amir al-Mu'mineen, and that is Ali. None of us prefer this title. We will not use this title. This is the title reserved for our grandfather Ali bin Abi Talib. Then he said to him, so what shall I call you? He said to him, call me either Ibn Zahra or call me Ibn Rasulillah, but not Amir. He is the only among Imam who had two sons who were Imams. He is the only one amongst Imam who had a wife who was Ma'suma. None of the other Imams had this fadila. He is the head of them. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam was said, are you all the same? He said, we have all of us the same access to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's knowledge. We have all the hujjat of Allah. He said, and when you are together, he says, when we are together, our leader is Ali. And if we are to pray together, we would pray behind him. Right? He is Amirul Mu'min. So this is his fadila. But now, remember one thing. In history, in the world, you see this. When faced with something that is superior, when you go in front of someone and you see that this man has more knowledge than me, this man is more educated than me, he has more dhuhd than me, pious than me, there are two ways to tackle this. One is to bow your head in admiration and submission to that knowledge. And one is to dig in something inside you to oppose when there is no opposition. You have nothing to oppose with. But you don't want to submit to that authority. We found that with action of the wife of some of the wives of the Prophet, with Sayyidah Fatima salamullahi alayha. You are faced with a woman who is supereminent, who is above you, but bow down in submission, accept that superiority. No. Sometimes they would want to say, but we have something. The same with Amirul Mu'minin. The same with Ali bin Abi Talib alayhi salam. When a man is shining so brightly, well, Muawiyah, he is not happy with this. He does not like to hear the fadila of Ali bin. He said, isn't there fadila of anybody else? Can we not somehow find something? First, from Sham, it is said that they tried to find problems with Ali, to try to spread rumors about Ali. They found that there were very few things they could talk about, that they could manufacture really, that people would accept. They created a few things, but it was difficult because Ali alayhi salam's image was so strong in front of the people that even his enemies respected that. Then Muawiyah hit on a very nice tactic. It's admirable, some of these thinking of these Malayin actually. What he said was, okay, you cannot bring him down. Bring everybody else up. That is possible. Bring everybody else up. It's like if you are a professor, everybody respects you. But if I say, no, also he's professor, I'm professor, we're all professors, the meaning of professor becomes diluted. Because the whole world is professor, professor becomes meaningless. So in an attempt to try to dilute the image of Ali bin Abi Talib, we get some very interesting hadiths. There is a clear hadith in Sunni and Shia books about Amirul Mu'minin alayhi salam, which says, the Prophet said, Ana madinatul ilm wa aliyun babuha faman arada al-madina wal hikmah fayatiha min babiha. I am the city of knowledge. This Ali is its gate. Whoever decides or desires to come towards the city and to gain from its wisdom has to come through its door. This is hadith, clear, and nobody can say it is for anybody but Amir al-Mu'minin. But now when we look at the books of others, we find strange hadith. So I have found this hadith that after this there is an addendum, Ana madinatul ilm wa aliyun babuha, and then that, for example, that Abu Bakr is the walls of this city, and that Umar is the roof of this city. You see, it's not about Abu Bakr or Umar, but I am saying now, what is this? It's an attempt to tinker with the hadith. There is a door of a city. Now, what about wall and roof of a city? Have you ever heard of a roof of a? And who comes through walls and roofs? Not good people. Everybody goes through door. Allah says in the Quran, when you want to enter a house, enter from the door, isn't it? So, what is this? An attempt to dilute, an attempt to mask. And I want you to understand this because it was very effective. It has permeated into our hadith corpus now. And sometimes, whenever you see a hadith, or whenever you see reports that seem to be inordinately praising a town or a tribe or a particular Sahabi, you need to keep your antennas on and see, where is this coming from? What is this attempting to do? And indeed, hadith scholars guide us on this. So, these were attempts. I want to now say two things in this last section of the Majlis. When you have a concerted attack like this, when for 60 years from the pulpits of all, it was wajib, it was compulsory by the order of the Umayyad government that every khutbah of Jum'ah should end with cursing and la'an on Ali bin Abi Talib. And that is how it should end. And this was done on thousands of pulpits all over. In fact, if the news came to Sham that one particular khatib did not do it, there would be consequences. So this became something used, something that was common. When Umar bin Abdul Aziz comes to power in 99 Hijrah, breaking the chain of Abdul Malik's sons briefly, before again Abdul Malik's sons come to power again, 99 to 101. Amongst the things that he instituted was he turned his attention to this land. When he was asked, why are you dispensing with the sunnah of the Khulafa or Rashidun, or when we were dispensing with the earlier Khulafa rather, he said something interesting. He said, when I was growing up, my father was Khatib, Abdul Aziz, of course from the Umayyad house. He was Friday Jummah Khutbah Khatib. And whenever he would come to this section, the last part, he would stutter. He would stammer. He wouldn't be comfortable. He would say it, but he would not say it with conviction. I picked up on it and I asked him about this. And I said to him, my father, why on this section you don't speak properly? He said, because this is the greatest dhulm done on anyone. That Ali should never be treated in this manner. His ihsan on Islam, more than anything else, whether we have difference of opinion on rulership, on who is in authority, is on its own place. But he does not deserve to be spoken with these words by men who never met him, by men who did not know his ihsan. So Umar bin Abdul Aziz said that from that day, I resolved that if I ever get a chance, I will do something about it. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given me authority. I am now the Khalifa of the Muslimin. And I say that from now on, this is going to stop. Instead, I advise the Muslimin, wherever they are, that they end their khutbah with an alternative statement. And this alternative statement is very good. Most of the Jummah khatibs end it with this, Shia and Sunni, and I advise my Shia friends that this is very good. We should recite this as well. And this is something that's suggested by Umar bin Abdul Aziz from Quran. He said, from now on we will end with إن الله يأمر بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. This ayat of Quran from Surah An-Nahl, I believe, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enjoins يأمر بالعدل, justice, والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وَيَنْهَى عَنِ الْفَحْشَاءِ وَالْمُنْكَرِ, and actually does not like this speaking in this way, fahsha and munkar. Allah guides you so that you are mindful. So the question is, how with this concerted attack, 60 years on the mimbar, a lot of fabrication and manufacturing of hadith, how does a man survive? How does a man's reputation survive 1400 years later? Where 1400 years later, there is not a single Muslim, Sunni or Shia, who has anything but good to say for Amirul Mu'mineen, despite this barrage. How did it happen? In Nahju Balagha, Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salam has this hadith, or has this saying. He says, remember one thing. Man aslaha sariratahu, aslaha Allahu alaniyatah. Whoever works carefully on that which is inside him, that which is known to only him and God. He works on his inside, his real self, his authentic identity. He works on that. Allah fixes for him everything that is to do with outside, with the people. Mostly people work the other way around. They're very careful about the veneer they present in front of the people, wanting the people's adulation, wanting the people's respect, and being careful about not being thought badly of from the people. So they present a face. But when they're indoors, alone, then they behave in their natural way, which is not always the same. This is what most people do generally. And that is why we are told by ulama of akhlaq that when you do something in public, a good thing, like a prayer, like an ibadah, then go home and do one more thing than that when you repeat it. When you do a prayer at home, you do it better, and then you say, Ya Allah, this just for you. There are no other witnesses, just you. Because if you do it the other way, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam said, then you have treated God as less of a witness than the other people. Less important a witness than the other people. So, whoever works hard to keep his personal, private business that is only between him and God perfect, Allah keeps the public business for him, all right, safe. His reputation, his impact and effect on the people. وَأَمَنْ عَمِلَ لِدِينِهِ, whoever devotes all his energy to working for deen. And deen doesn't mean just what we term as furu' deen or anything like that. Deen is the path of Allah as taught by Rasulullah, as taught by Ahlul Bayt. That he devotes his time to deen, then what? Kafahu Allahu amra dunya. Then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will always make the affairs of his dunya alright as well. وَمَنْ أَحْسَنَ فِي مَا بَيْنَهُ وَبَيْنَ اللَّهِ كَفَاهُ اللَّهُ مَا بَيْنَهُ وَبَيْنَ النَّاسِ. If you work on having a solid, respectful, loving relationship with Allah, Allah will give you the same between you and the people. They will look at you this way as well. So, Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salam acted on this. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who gives izzah, remember that. تُعِزُّ مَن تَشَاءُ وَتُذِلُّ مَن تَشَاءُ. You can try to bring izzah to yourself, but if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't want you to have it, people will see that as a hollow thing and you will not get that izzah. And you can try to bring zillah to someone, all your words, all your stories, all of that, it won't come to pass if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants to keep that person's dignity. And Ali alayhi salam is a classic case of that. So in the end then, I want to bring just 3 or 4, and I don't have much time to flesh it out, but these are not far from us. These are things we can read about in history. If you open up the history of Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salam in Kufa especially. 3 or 4 things that I bring, and there are many things we can learn from just the way he conducted himself. On the one hand, he is of course the ruler, but he was accessible. He was accessible to the people. These are lessons leaders can learn from Amirul Mu'minin because he was a leader of a public leader. Public leaders should read about his example, about what he also taught to his own governors as to how leaders should behave. One of them was accessibility. Ali alayhi salam was not sitting in a palace that you had an appointment to go see him. People saw him. People saw him in the mosque. People saw him in the streets. People interacted with him. And he did not announce to everybody who he was. There's a very interesting story. For example, when he first came, once, it was I think early years in Kufa, must have been, because he was not that well known. And he is walking in Kufa, and one of the alleys, there was a lady, she was crying. Because obviously she was a servant, she was crying. So he said to her, "Why are you crying?" So she said, "I went and bought some dates from the market. Now I have come home. My master says these dates are not good. Return them." So I went to return them, and the seller says, "I'm not taking them back. Now if I go into the house, my master will hit me because he is a man of ready fists. He hits." So she is now in this dilemma. Amir Mu'min alayhi salam says, "Come with me." He takes her to the market. He says to the date seller, "This woman has bought dates, but they are not suitable for what her master wants, and she is very distressed. Give her back her money. It has happened only recently." The man said, "No, go away." He didn't recognize it. So go away. So Imam alayhi salam came closer to him, and this man took his fist, put it on the chest of Amirul Mu'minin, and pushed him back. Pushed him back. When this happened, some people gathered round. One person said to the date seller, "You have pushed him back. Do you know who he is?" He said, "I don't care who he is." He says, "This is the man who wields a sword called Zulfikar." So now the face fell down. He realized that for some reason, I have picked a fight with the very wrong person. So he began to tremble and apologize. Imam alayhi salam said to him, this is the thing we should learn from. Imam alayhi salam said to him, "Don't bother about the punch. Give her money back, because Rasulullah said that if a person brings back something which they have sold from you, bought from you, return their money to them." This is from the Sunnah. Return her money. Forget about the blow. I don't want to discuss it. See, these are things we can learn. Small, subtle things about life, about, tawadu, humility, and about duty. The right thing has to be said. The right thing has to be fought for, but not because it's a personal insult, but because it is to do with God. Or for example, with Qambar, you have heard these things. Once they are going, Qambar was the servant of Amirul Mu'minin alayhi salam. Please recite salawat ala Muhammad. And consequently, his upkeep and his needs, they were met by Imam. So Imam alayhi salam decided to buy 2 shirts. You have heard this, I think. He buys 2 shirts. One was more costly, one was cheaper. And Qambar expected to get the cheaper shirt. Imam alayhi salam kept that shirt and gave him the other shirt. So Qambar said to him, "Mawla, you are the master. You wear the shirt that is more costly." Imam alayhi salam said to him, "Qambar, I am an older man." Imam is now in 60s in Kufa. "You are a young man. This shirt suits you more. This shirt suits me more." Now, look, what is happening here is authenticity, a care, mindfulness of what is the need. What does this person need? What does that person need? What does this son need? What does that son need? Not about favoritism or just made out of this kind of aql, these decisions made. Similarly, there are many justice. If you go to in English, Kitab al-Ishad is in English, and look at the judgments of Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salam. In other books, in other languages, maybe if people here read Urdu, they can read some of the translations of Urdu, but others are in original languages. The judgments of Amir al-Mu'minin. In Kufa, when you go, inshallah, Allah take us there again and again. There is a Daqqatul Qadha. Have you seen that? The Amir al-Mu'minin had a seat there, and there was an ayah on an archway. This ayah which I recited, Inna Allah ya'muru bil adl. And he used to listen to the case, and he would give judgments. And so many judgments given in Kufa. Some of them have legal precedent in fiqh that are used today in Islamic law. Others are fascinating. Just this one I was reading, and I will finish with this. I'm not sure my time can about 2 to 3 minutes. Um, this is an interesting one where two people are traveling together, coming to Kufa, by the way, and they are also Muslim. So when they begin to travel, I suppose their wives or someone doesn't say, pack them some food. They had some bread with them. Now, one person had 5 pieces of bread, 5 loaves. One had 3 loaves. Okay. Now, along the way, they come and they decide to stop to have something to eat from their food. So they take out the food. They have 8 loaves now. A man comes, a traveler, and as is custom and politeness, they ask him to join them for their food. So he says, thank you. He sits down. So now there are 3 people. So what they decide is they break each of those loaves into 3. So 8 times 3 is 24. So each person eats 8. Because there are 24 pieces, each person eats 8. Hope. Now the traveler is going in a different direction. So he says, thank you very much for your kindness. I would like to give you a gift. And he gave them 8 dirham. Hope, thinking to himself, I've eaten 8 pieces, 8 dirham. So they didn't expect this. Now they're going with this. And the man who had 5 loaves, he said, I should have 5 dirham. My wife worked harder. I had 5 loaves, which I brought to the table, and you should have 3. The other one says, no, we went out here to sell bread. This was luck for equal for us, so we should all both have 4. So the other said, no, it's just 1 dirham, but really I brought 5 bread. You brought 3, and everything's been eaten up, right? So I should have 5. And they're talking like this. And they say this can only be sorted when we get to Kufa. When they get to Kufa, Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salam is consulted by them. It's interesting. When he hears this, and I don't have time to flesh it out, because what he does is he gives 2 rulings. He gives 1 ruling and then he changes it. So first he says to the person who is being told take 3, that look, take 3. Let him have 5. So he says, no, Ya Ali, I want justice. I want justice. So Imam Ali said, you want justice? Let's go to Daqatul Qadha. So they sit down and Imam Ali says, okay, tell me the story. Imam says, and the just ruling and one that will not change is he will have 7 and you will have 1. So he said, what happened here? I was seeking for 4. I thought I was refusing a 3. I have 1. Imam Ali said to him, how many pieces of bread did you bring? He said 3. How many pieces did that happen after you cut them? He says 9. He says, how many did you eat? He says 8. How many do you give the traveler? He says 1. He said, how many did he bring loaves? He said 5. How many pieces did his come? 15. How many did he eat? 8. How many did he give to this traveler? 7. Imam says, you took 1 now and he takes 7 and this is Adl. Now go. So such cases are there and some of them are fascinating. Some of them are really, you get ibrah from them, what Allah says. Look, in the end, this is all fine and it's good. And on a night like this, why shouldn't we as Shia celebrate openly? We are happy that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala attached us to someone like Ali. But at the same time, we are making a one-sided claim right now, and we're not. We are saying, Ya Ali, we are your Shia. What we want is one day Ali alayhi salam says, Ya Allah, these are my Shia. If he says we are Shia, that is success. So what will it take to be the Shia of Ali? And in short, it will mean walking on those things. You see, Ali alayhi salam sometimes is such a dazzling figure that most people, they are so dazzled by him that they think the dazzling is the enough. No, the dazzling is just to call to him. Once we have come to him, then we have to follow that path. The path that he left behind. Shia means follower, doesn't mean admirer. Ali has many admirers, alayhi salam. Many. Non-Muslims are his admirers. I have heard, Pandit giving, poetry for Ali bin Abi Talib. George Jordak writes a book and he says, Ali, I'm not your Shia, but I love you. Right? Why? Because he's that kind of figure. But Shia means to follow. Shia means to do. I remember when back in the day, not now Imran is studying in one of our students studying in Hausa and doing very well in Qom. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless him. and increase in his tawfiq, inshallah. Back in the day, in early days, just after Inqilab, so what used to happen was the banks were trying to get customers. Now they couldn't advertise interest rates because there is no interest. So how to get people in? So one of the banks wrote that if you open an account in our bank, we will have a draw every month. The winner will get a Mercedes Benz. Now back in the day, and I think even now, that is an iconic car in Iran. Mercedes Benz is driven by people who have Allah is blessed. So one young man, he was a simple guy, he was in service. He said, Mercedes Benz, that would be something. So he said, how do I get this? He was very religious, mashallah. So he made an istighasa to Imam al-Rada, salawatullahi wa alayhi. And he said, Ya Imam Rada, if I get this Mercedes, I'm keeping a majlis in your honor with Niyaz at my home. And inshallah, you give me the Mercedes. Hope he kept majlis, people came. When the day came to choose the winner, he went out to look. His name wasn't there, it was somebody else. He said, okay, so he's thinking how to do it. So the next month he thought something better. He said, yeah, Imam, because he was busy on job. He said, yeah, Imam, I am sending someone for your ziyarat. From my town to you, I'm paying for your ziyarat, to come and do ziyarat for you. Inshallah, I get this Mercedes. So he sent someone for ziyarat, which the guy went and did the ziyarat, lucky fellow. When they went to look at the name was somebody else's. So now he's thinking to himself, how do I tighten the screw on Imam Rada alayhi salam? So he says, okay, I want this Mercedes this month. Yeah, Imam, I am coming to Mashhad on foot to do your ziyarah. You give me this Mercedes. And he's telling his wife, I know now I'm going to get here. He got a lot of yaqeen in Imam Rada alayhi salam. He said to his wife, go tell your father that your son-in-law has a Mercedes Benz next month. So when he went to look at the name, it wasn't there. He walked to Mashhad. He said many things. He said, yeah, Imam Rada alayhi salam, what's going on, this, that, everything. He walked. Mashhad is not easy to walk to, it was far. He reached the Sahan. Fell asleep in the Sahan, he was exhausted. In his dream came Imam Ali bin Musa Rida alayhi salam. And he said to him, Ya Fulani, you love us so much and you have done all these good things. And we also are appreciative and we want to help you. But you haven't opened an account in the bank. Now, you haven't opened any account. If you open an account, we'll push it forward. You haven't done that. Now, we want to go on the day of judgment and say, Hum Ali ke Shia hain, but the pockets are empty. Even if Mawla wants to push us, on what ground he'll push us? He will push a Benamazi. He will push a Behijabi. How will he push? How will he even say, Ya Allah, give him some shafa'ah? He gives shafa'ah liman ittarda. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's rida is there, then. So when we say we are Shia, it comes with a associated responsibility of action. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make this day a truly blessed one for the Shia. Make it a truly blessed one for Ali Muhammad. Make it a truly blessed one for followers of Ali Muhammad. And I know that some people have come here. Ya Allah, they are in difficulties at the moment. By the sake of Amirul Mu'minin alayhi salam, Mawlud Kaaba, let their difficulties be dissipated, inshallah wa ta'ala. People's hajat, if they have, let their legitimate hajat be fulfilled for the barakah of Amirul Mu'minin alayhi salam. Ya Allah, on the day that we die, the face that we should see smiling at us should be of Amirul Mu'minin alayhi salam, inshallah wa ta'ala. Wa akhir da'wana anil hamdulillahi rabbil alameen.